I want to tell you something I have never said out loud before. Not to my children, not to my closest friends. There were mornings in my third marriage when I woke up next to the man I loved more than anyone, and I felt something I was almost ashamed to feel. It was not unhappiness. It was not regret. It was something quieter. I felt tired. Not of him, of the constant quiet negotiation that comes with sharing a life, of considering someone else's preferences before my own, of the invisible labor of being a wife, even a wife in a good marriage. Come sit with me. My name is Victoria. I am 72 years old. I live alone on a large private estate in Connecticut. I have been married 3 times. The last one, Edward, was the love of my life. I miss him still, 6 years later. But I am going to say something that may sound strange. Living alone has given me a kind of peace that I never experienced in any of my marriages. Not because my marriages were bad, but because I had never, until these last 6 years, known what it felt like to have a day that belonged entirely to me. Let me explain. In my first marriage to Robert, I was 24. I did not know myself well enough to know what I was giving up. I cooked the meals he liked. I attended the events he needed me to attend. I kept my opinions soft when they disagreed with his. That was simply what wives did then. When I discovered his affair, the betrayal was real. But there was also a small, secret part of me that felt relief, because his affair gave me permission to leave. Permission I did not feel I had on my own. My second marriage to James was different. He was kind, stable, a good man. We were together for 13 years and raised 3 children. But somewhere around year 7, I sat on the edge of our bed with a packed bag. I stayed. Not because I loved him so completely, because I did not know who I would be if I left. I had been someone's wife for so long that I had forgotten how to be just me. James and I grew apart slowly. The divorce was mutual. There was no villain. But I walked out of that marriage and realized something painful. I did not know what I liked to eat for dinner when no one else was at the table. I did not know what silence felt like when it was chosen rather than endured. Then came Edward. He was the one who made me believe that love could be safe. Quiet, warm, deeply devoted. I trusted him completely. I loved him in a way I had never loved anyone before. That is all true. But here is the other truth. Even in that marriage, the marriage I would relive in a heartbeat, I never fully exhaled. Because marriage, even a great one, requires a certain kind of attention. It requires you to hold someone else in your awareness at all times, to consider their mood, to adjust your volume, to negotiate every piece of shared space. I did not resent any of it. But I did not know until Edward was gone how much energy I had been spending on simply being half of a pair. I upload here every evening. I sit with my tea and I talk honestly about life. If you are new, I would like you to subscribe. I will be here tomorrow. After Edward passed, I expected the loneliness to be unbearable, and it was at first. The first year I barely slept. The house felt like a museum of someone else's life. I would turn to tell him something and he was not there. But something else happened in that first year, something I did not expect. I discovered that I liked the silence. Not all the time, but there were evenings when I would sit in this chair with this tea and realize that no one else's mood was in the room with me. No one else's expectations, no one else's unspoken needs. The air was mine, the time was mine, the decision about when to eat, when to sleep, when to speak, when to be quiet, all of it was mine. That feeling was so unfamiliar that I almost did not recognize it. I thought I was grieving, and I was. But underneath the grief, there was something else. There was peace. I still miss Edward. I miss him in the garden where his roses are still blooming. I miss him at the dinner table. That loss has softened, but it has not gone away. And at the same time, I have found a version of myself that I did not know existed. A version that does not need to negotiate. A version that does not need to accommodate. A version that can spend an entire day in her own company and feel full at the end of it. I have learned things about myself in these 6 years that I never learned in 50 years of marriage. I have learned that I prefer dinner at 6, not 7. I have learned that I can spend a whole Saturday reading without feeling guilty. I have learned that my own thoughts are actually quite good company once I stop being afraid of them. I have also learned that loneliness and solitude are not the same thing. Loneliness is an ache. Solitude is a choice. I have chosen solitude now, not because I am bitter or broken, but because I have finally, at 72, learned what it feels like to be completely responsible for my own happiness, and I do not want to give that up. My daughter Caroline asked me once if I would ever marry again. I told her no. She asked me why. I said because I spent 50 years being someone's wife. I was good at it. I do not regret it. But I want to spend whatever time I have left being just Victoria. She did not fully understand. She is 38. She is still in the middle of raising children. She cannot imagine wanting to be alone. That is fine. She does not need to understand. She just needs to respect it, and she does. I want to say something to the women watching who are my age. If you are living alone and you are lonely, that is real. I am not telling you that solitude is the answer for everyone. Some people need more company. Some people are happier in partnership. That is not a failure. But if you are living alone and you feel something you cannot name, something that is not quite loneliness and not quite sadness, perhaps it is peace. Perhaps it is the peace of not having to perform, of not having to manage, of not having to be anything other than exactly what you are in this moment. It took me 3 marriages and 72 years to learn that peace. I wish I had learned it sooner, but I am glad I learned it at all. There are evenings when the quiet still feels heavy. There are evenings when I would give a great deal to have Edward sitting across from me. Those evenings are real. I do not pretend otherwise. But most evenings now, the quiet feels like a friend. It feels like a room I have finally learned how to occupy without apology. I am not telling you to leave your marriage. I am not telling you that living alone is better than being with someone you love. That would be foolish. What I am telling you is that if you are alone, whether by choice or circumstance, and you are wondering if it is possible to be happy this way, the answer is yes, it is possible. I did not believe it at first either, but it is possible. You may discover, as I did, that you are much better company for yourself than you remember, that the silence is not empty, that the freedom is not frightening once you get used to it. I am 72. I have been married 3 times. I have loved deeply and lost deeply. And I have learned finally that the most important relationship I will ever have is the one I have with myself. If you are sitting alone tonight, wondering if this is all there is more. Not more in the sense of another person, more in the sense of you. There is more of you to discover. I upload every evening. If you would like to sit with me again tomorrow, the subscribe button is just below. Take care of yourself tonight. Come sit with me.